Okay, update. Today is the 16th of April, and been a lot going on, as you might guess, but it's not what you might think it is right now. But I'll kind of go through some of the process that I've been involved with here. I mean, everything, starting with the bottom. I started about 10 days ago. I put the 3 planks together for the bottom using a biscuit joiner. I used number 20 biscuits on 4-inch centers. And then I applied this 5200 marine adhesive sealant over all of the biscuits and the joints, and let it cure for, it said, a week. So I let it sit clamped up for a whole week. And this is not a requirement, obviously, of John Gardner's book, but it's kind of silent about the fact, other than the fact that he wants you to put cleats on there, which I did. Only I put it on after I did all of the gluing, because it's a messy process, number one, and I wanted to, after I got the bottom glued and sealed and set for a week, I took the clamps off and used a belt sander to clean up all of the mess, because it's a real rubbery, gooey kind of adhesive. And then I used the palm sander to put a decent finish on it, using 150 grit for right now. And then just this morning I put the cleats on by using 1.5-inch number 10 screws. I put them on 1.5-inch centers, so there's a lot of screws under there. I've countersunk them. I'm going to cut the plugs to apply the plugs over all of those holes. But also, I'm going to, starting now, I've cut after I got through, before I even put the cleats on, I cut the bottom to the pattern that's required by John Gardner. I used some batten, a piece of batten material to outline this and draw the outline, and I've cut the outline out, leaving about 1/8 of an inch, and I used a jigsaw with a good, nice sharp blade, and I set it at a 45, mainly because like for example, this frame here, frame number 1, has a 26-degree bevel, so that means there's a lot of wood available for me to plane and cut it down, and the number 2 frame has a 36-degree bevel, and then it goes on into the stem. So I've also done a preliminary beveling on the stems. I just used a hand 4-inch power planer to get the bevels down where you leave about 1/4 of an inch either side of the center line on the bevel. On the stem. You measure where the center line of that stem is coming down this way, and leave 1/4 of an inch on either side of that line for fine tuning when you finally get the plank started in. At least that's what I'm reading about, and believe me, there's so much to read and so much to see. I mean, everything from, well, I've been fine-tuning planes and understanding how all of that works, and or trying to understand it all, and finding jigs and fixtures, making shooting boards and all of that sort of thing. But the frames are now, frame 1 is beveled and ready to go. Frame 2, I need to bevel the sides yet, and I'm going to check now that, but I've got to put a curve to the bottom to verify the plumbness of frame 2. And frame 3 actually will sit on the stem right here. And it's kind of a precarious situation the way that it's set up, but I mean, all there are 2 pieces that come down, and then there's a plywood gusset that holds the 2 pieces together, and it sits right here. I guess I'm not sure how you secure it to the stem while you're trying to hang planks, but you know, part of the deal will be just to get it there at the right position and with the right bevel on the bottom of the gusset, and then when the frames are all secured, the bottom frames are secured, and this frame is in place, then I'm going to run a batten from the full length of that's the stern down there, and this is the bow. So I will be running a batten, and I've marked the stems so that this is the top of the shear batten right here. And these numbers, right here is where the top of the shear is, right here. The top of these spalls that you see in the frames, which are temporary spalls, these are just to hold the frames rigid while you're working on it. The top of these spalls is the shear for the boat. So it's a good thing to have as a guideline, and you will run the batten all the way around and past frame 3, which will be there, and you secure it to these frames to give it, the whole structure, a little bit of rigidity while you're trying to hang plank. The question I'm still struggling with is, do I try to screw the frames to the bottom while the frame is in? It's the only thing I know how to do, but it's kind of awkward because you can't, you've got to build the boat upside down. I've got the outline for that backbone right here on the floor, and I'm pretty much ready to put the backbone in place, but I can't, you know, the bottom is going to be sitting on the backbone. And there's going to be, I've got some 2x10s over there, and I'm going to splice them together and run them, and that's basically what the bottom is going to sit on upside down, and making allowances. So that 2x10 is going to be going right through in here. So I can't secure the frames and then turn it over. I've got to basically thread this somehow, and so a few challenges here to try to figure out it, and I will figure them out. But just to give you an idea of some of the complexities of what's going on here. Going back a little bit to the frames themselves, I have already on my woodworking bench down in the shop, set them up on the bench and made sure everything was level, and ran a plumb bob down to the center and marked the center lines on, you know, from here all down to here. And there's a center line marked on the bottom board going from fore to aft, and all of the frame stations are also marked. The stems will be screwed from the bottom up through here using number 14 2.5-inch screws. And I don't know, it doesn't say anything in any of the books or anything about gluing it with an epoxy, but I'll make that call myself, I guess, sometime. But I might even go online and ask somebody about it. When I was putting the frames together, the gussets, where these 2 pieces of frame come together, this one here, this particular gusset is on John's Gardner's book, and it's flattened out here because the thwart, the seat, actually rests right here on both sides of these gussets, and in addition to that, it rests there's a seat riser. It's like a batten that goes along the inside of these frames, and the seats, there's a seat that will go right in here. Excuse me, there's a seat here, there's a seat here, there's a seat at each frame station, so that seat riser is going to come right in here, and it ends right about in this location here before it gets into the bow area. And part of there's a seat that comes in here and sits about this high, and it's a kind of a wedge-shaped seat. So it's got to be resting on that same batten that'll come around here. And like I said, it doesn't go all the way to the stem. So, and then other things that are going to happen is that after I get all of this put together upside down and all of the planks on, I've got to flip it. And I don't know how I'm going to do that yet. But there's a lot of challenges, so you can pretty much stay tuned because it's going to be interesting. Oh, some of the other things that I'm doing right now, also in advance, is I went out and bought a whole mess of sandpaper, everything up to 320 grit, because my plan is to stain the inside, and including the frames and the seats, and probably, when I get around to cutting them, the seat risers and all of the other trim that goes inside the boat. I'll be staining it, and I'm thinking about an oak stain, but in order for this bottom being made out of fir versus the oak itself, the oak takes the stain very nicely. The bottom, if I don't do something with it, it's going to tend to take up the stain and blotching look and maybe look ugly. So there is a pre-stain compound or liquid that you can buy made by Minwax, and I think other manufacturers make it something similar. But you apply that to the bottom, and everything that's made out of fir I'll have to treat with that before I apply the stain, because I want the stain to go down, on all of the pieces before I start assembling, so that it looks like a professional staining job and not have little dark spots and splotchy pieces here and there. And then on the outside planks, I'm going to use a different kind of a stain. It's a lighter stain for the garboard, the broad, and the binder planks. The shear plank, my plan is to, Minwax also makes a stain that is sort of it's not an opaque stain. It allows you, it's a green, they come in all colors, but there's one particular color I like. It's almost like the color of the bottom of the bandsaw there, and I'd like to see about having that be a little bit of an offset here against the lighter colored other planks, so that you'll have the gunnel sitting on top of all of that, separating that in the green plank and then the lighter planks, and then the inside be all of the oak stain. So I'm looking at doing all of that kind of on the fly as we're going through the process. And of course, all of this stuff I might change my mind before it's all over, because I'm still a work in progress here.